Today's episode of the Women's Sports Matter podcast is sponsored exclusively by Heya. Coaches, are you looking for a better way to communicate with your team? Heya is a simple communication and scheduling app for sports teams. Heya allows coaches to cut down on emails and texts to save a ton of time on team admin. 180,000 teams have signed up for the app, which allows coaches, parents, players, and volunteers to easily communicate and organize practices and games. Do yourself a favor by downloading Heya for free by typing HEJA in the App Store. Thank you again to Heya for exclusively sponsoring today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Women's Sports Matter podcast. My name is Gianna Belcastro, and I am your host. I am in a different location today. It's kind of odd. Where am I? Oh, wait, that's right. I'm at Podcast Row at the United Soccer Coaches Convention in Kansas City, Missouri. Yes, I'm not in Illinois right now. It's too bad because the weather there is just god-awful right now. It's so cold. I am here at Podcast Row. This is my first ever sports-related convention. I want to give a shout-out again to the United Soccer Coaches for inviting me here. This is just so cool. And I'm going to be doing a bunch of interviews, so we're going to have a lot of episodes next week. Anyway, today I am joined by someone really awesome. Okay, this is going to be a really good interview, I promise. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Missy Price. I am currently the president of the board of directors of United Soccer Coaches. I'm a former college coach. I'll get to that in a minute. And I just took a new role at the United Soccer League, USL, as a vice president of women's soccer. So lots of really awesome experiences that I've had in my career. So I've been at a couple different colleges. I worked at the University of Illinois, actually. So I know where Naperville is. I know where Chicago is. I know where all that is, and did a lot of recruiting up there. I've also been an assistant coach at the University of Virginia, the University of Miami, University of Nevada, where I also became a head coach. And the job I most recently stepped down from in order to become vice president of women's soccer of USL, I was the head soccer coach at Wellesley College outside of Boston, which is a Division III school. So lots of different experiences. Partway through my coaching career, I decided what I really was into is kind of the sports psychology or the mental side of sports. And so I pursued a PhD in sports psychology from the University of Virginia. So I got my doctorate there in 2010. And I've spent most of my career being an advocate and a mentor for women in sport, especially women's soccer, women in coaching, all things just trying to invest in women and especially the women's game. So soccer's near and dear to my heart. I played at the University of Maryland. So that's kind of my main focus, but I really do support all of women's sports and the opportunities for women to be in sport, whether it's as a player, a coach, a media personality, inside the lines, outside the lines, owners, investors, all of it. So
that is the best introduction I've ever had on the show. Honestly, very nice introduction. So much stuff going on. That's a lot of great stuff that you've been doing. I want to know, this is my first time at the United Soccer Coaches Convention. How has your time here so far been?
I tell you what, this is probably my somewhere between 15th and 20th convention, but the fact that we did not have one in person last year and we're back here in person, it just feels like I'm really grateful. I'm really happy to be around all of our colleagues in our community again. It's fun. You see people you haven't seen. Sometimes there's people you see at convention and that's where you see them every year. And it's great to just reconnect. You get to learn and go to different sessions, interact with sort of our technology and innovation aspects of the game, whether that's media and Podcast Row or our exhibit halls. You can go up there and learn about different products. There's, everything from gear to technology to wearables to uniforms to administrative support for coaches and players. It's just all sorts of things. So it's innovative, it's fun, I'm really having a good time. This year I'm president, so that comes with a lot of responsibility as far as some speaking engagements and other things, but it's been really great, especially today, to just kind of wander the halls and just be back together. It's been cool.
I can't wait to explore. I was looking online to see the different exhibitors that's going to be here, the different podcasts. I've connected with people online before I got here. So everything is just like super exciting. And I'm finally around people that like soccer. No one in my family likes soccer.
Okay.
I am the only one in my family that enjoys soccer. So my uncle that is here with me does not like soccer. He took me to my first fire game in July. And he was sitting here like, okay, like, what is this? But he's a Cowboys fan, so I gotta shame him for the Cowboys stuff.
Okay, all right.
But since you brought up that you are president of the board of directors here, can you tell me a little bit about that? You know, what you've been doing, stuff like that.
Yeah, so United Soccer Coaches has sort of like two things, right? You have a board of directors, and our job, there's a president, a past president, there are vice presidents, and some what we call at-large members that tend to have key functions in, like, let's say marketing and finance and law or other things that can be really helpful. Diversity, equity, inclusion, all sorts of different experiences. So that's a board. That's our group of board members. Our job's really to help with the strategic vision of the association, to help with strategic planning. It's a little bit of oversight, fiscal responsibility. So there's, kind of this, that's our job. But then we have this incredible group of people that we call our national staff office that is located right here in Kansas City. So you've got a whole group of people there with a CEO and CFO, kind of like the business model, so to speak. And those are the people that do all the hard work. I go to some board meetings throughout the year, and we have an important job. And we're talking about, you have the sort of the foundation of the association that existed well before you and I were ever around, right? And now that gets handed over year over year over year, and the board kind of is caretakers of that in some way, and trying to stay relevant and current for our members. Coaching and the game continues to evolve and change, and so we as an association continue to evolve and change. So my job as president is to lead the board of directors, to help with all this sort of oversight stuff that we're responsible for, but to also just really make sure that we're connecting with our community, which is our members, and that our national staff feel like they have the tools they need to help do that too, right? Because when you get a membership to United Soccer Coaches, you're investing in yourself and in the job that you do as being a coach. And it's our job to make sure that you're ready to do that in any way you can. And we've learned a lot. In my coaching career, I've seen things evolve tremendously as far as, what does a coach do, right? And now you get even into the more modern day of today, and a coach does a lot of things besides the X's and O's. And that's what, we want to make sure we're ready to do. So that's kind of what I do as president. And my term of president ends at the end of this convention, and the next president takes over, and I become the immediate past president. And I just, wear flip-flops to meetings and enjoy a sort of a ceremonial year. Now, it's 6 years of service, so it's a commitment, and one that really becomes part of who you are.
So to go back to when you were coaching, my question for you is, you've had all these different coaching jobs, both head coach and assistant coach. Which has been the most rewarding experience for you?
I've loved them all in a different way. For me, when I first got into coaching, I was an assistant coach, and I thought I'll never be a head coach. It just wasn't my aspiration. Not because it was bad, or I just didn't see myself in that role. So I didn't get into coaching seeing myself becoming a head coach. I got into coaching because I enjoyed it. I think I also got into it because a couple of people told me, like mentors and things like that, said you'll be good at it. So having somebody believe in you and kind of doing it. So as an assistant coach, what I really enjoyed was that role of just being the helper and being able to sometimes be devil's advocate, and sometimes be like, it was also the players still really like you. And, they want to like come talk to you a little bit more. When you take on the head coaching role, you get that too, but not all the time, or not in the same ways. No. So the assistant coaching role was a lot of fun because in some ways I was fortunate to be given a lot of responsibility, but every decision doesn't land on you. And when you become the head coach, every decision is yours to make. The assistant coach can give input and help make decisions, but in the end, it's the head coach. And I think that changes the game. Again, not good or bad, but it really weighs on you. At least on me, my personality would be to think about my decisions after I made them, learn from them, good or bad, that kind of thing. So I would say coaching in general, what I loved about it the most was two things. Was just seeing my players every day and kind of like sharing the energy and love that you have for being part of the team, regardless of what school I was at. And the problem solving that the game gives you. Soccer is not black and white. We can't call timeouts all the time and try to fix things. So you really have to teach your players how to be good problem solvers. And I think that was the fun part about it for me.
When you talked about, when the assistant coach, I go back to my basketball days, like I understand that. That's funny.
I mean, same for me, right? There's sometimes where I was like, I'll go talk to my assistant coach, but I'm not talking to my head coach about that.
So you made some big news last year when you were named the head of women's soccer for the USL. Mm-hmm. What do you look forward to doing in this role?
Yeah, so the USL is really investing in the women's game, right? So they, in October, named Amanda Vandervoort president of the Super League, which is a women's professional league launching in 2023 with about 10 to 12 teams. And Amanda brought me on board as vice president of women's soccer to help develop the technical side of the women's pathway. So we talk about women's pathway, talking about like youth to pre-professional to professional, and having opportunities for girls and women to play soccer, or after their playing career is over, even work in one of the teams or organizations or clubs as coaches, referees, whatever it is, owners, investors, athletic trainers, fans, you name it, it's kind of there, but is really creating this place that fosters excitement, energy, opportunity, and investment in women and women's soccer. And I think for me, when that opportunity was presented to me of like, what do you think? Do you want to be part of this? I was like, wow, this is kind of, I have to step away from the game, the field, the on-field coaching role. But this is something that I've been doing my whole career as kind of like a side gig that I now get to do for a living. Yeah, sign me up.
So with the W League starting in May 2022, what should fans be looking out for?
Yeah, so I think, the W League, you're looking at 40, 45 plus teams, maybe even more by the time we get to May. So I think you should be out, like what I love about the W League is think local, right? So you get to support teams in your local city and bring this global game of soccer into your local city and go out and cheer them on. Like, I think that's one of the big things is you should be looking out for a way to rally around each other in your community, supporting a team in the sport of women's soccer, but in the sport of soccer also. And I think that's really cool. You're bringing this giant global game into these local markets and really having some fun and excitement around it. And I think there's a lot that could do for a community, especially right now in all that we've been dealing with in the last couple of years. People's priorities have shifted, people's value structures have been challenged. Like, there's just been a lot of things. And I think a lot of people it can resonate with a lot of people to say, like, you want to be part of something. We all do. And there's going to be 45 plus opportunities in cities all around the country for you to be part of women's soccer. So go out, enjoy it, and have some fun with it.
There's 2 teams in Chicago. I got a lot of Illinois listeners.
Yes.
There's 2 teams. Go find them.
Yes.
Cheer them on.
It's going to be good soccer.
I've been getting more into women's soccer recently. Ever since the World Cup happened in 2019, I was like, okay, I am like fully gonna invest a lot of my time into this. The fact that there's gonna be more than 40 teams within this league is just like, whoa. Partnering with different USL teams. There's like different divisions within the USL, right? It's like it's tiered, right?
Right. So on the women's pathway, the W League's a pre-professional league. So you're talking really about college players playing over the summer. So right now the W League calendar is kind of like a May to July calendar. And so that's predominantly the type of player that's going to be playing in that league. So you go play in college, whether it's in your home market or another market, at a W League team that you're playing in over the summer, and then go back to your college team on the academic calendar. So that's what's kicking off in May. And then in 2023 is the Super League. And that is another league within the USL. So the Super League is the pinnacle of the women's pathway. It's professional soccer for women in the country. So for example, you have a player who plays in college, plays in the W League over the summer. Once their college career is finished, they have an opportunity that they could play in professional soccer, and that's what they desire to do. There's going to be teams available in the Super League, right, for them to continue playing post-college career.
So it's kind of like the NWSL, but make it USL.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there'll be 2 professional leagues in the country.
Love that. Yeah. One thing that, switching sports for a second, one thing that I was kind of worried about with AU bringing in basketball this year was like competition between the WNBA and AU pro hoops. I'm kind of wondering, like, with the NWSL already existing and the Super League coming in, do you think it'll be more of like, I don't know where to go type thing, or it's like, oh, this also exists for me. If I can't make it here, I'll go here?
I think I'm going to say that I think it's somewhere in between.
Okay.
Right? So what I think it is I think it's places for players to play. If you just look at the sheer numbers, and these are round numbers and in averages, but USU Soccer tells us that, you have roughly 3 million kids playing soccer in our country, and that's about 50-50 boys and girls. So even if we just lowballed it and said there were 1 million girls playing soccer, and then as they move into college, you're talking about roughly 40,000 college players across Division 1, 2, 3, NAI. I like to start naming them off. And so by having the Super League of 10, 12 teams, let's say, in the Super League when it launches in 2023, you're creating more opportunity for women to continue to play our sport at a professional level in our country, right? And I think with the strength of soccer in our country for women, with the strength of soccer being the most popular sport in the world, right, is that what we are doing is saying women matter, and we want to create not just the pathway that we're creating, right, but also at each of those points along the pathway, an awesome experience for anybody playing and working in those leagues. So if you coach or play or work in the front office at the W League or at the Super League or at the club level with the girls part of the pathway, that your experience is valuable. And I think, and it's one that you're like, I want to come back and be a part of, right? So if you play in the W League over the summer and you have a tremendous experience there, it's got a huge focus on player welfare, player development, coach welfare, coach development, all those kinds of things. You're learning so much just in that short period of time. From May to July, you still have your college career that you're also learning and growing in. And now you're like, hey, I want to play after college, or coaches who want to coach at the professional level. Women, of course, there's going to be men working in the league and men there, right? It's not that, but women who want to be leaders in women's soccer, there are going to be more opportunities for them to do that with what the USL is doing.
More women's soccer, more fun.
Hey, it could be that simple. Why didn't we just say that at the beginning? Forget all these other questions and talking points.
The more women's soccer you have, the more fun that you have. Just saying.
Yeah.
It's a lot better.
That's a correlate.
So since there's going to be so many teams, obviously you need players to be on these teams. Where can players go to find out more information about, their own home markets and how they can try out?
Yeah, great question. So anywhere where there's a W League team, right, they're controlling how players get onto their teams, not us at the league level. So any place that those players want to play, they should be trying to look for information on the club's website about how they're having open tryouts or what their process is to play on those teams, because those local markets will control how players get onto programs. So Google.
Use Google, okay?
Google would be a good place, but they usually post information on their websites and social media.
So, do you have like one dream accomplishment for this year for your new role?
You know, the USL has incredible resources and infrastructure, and I think that's a strength of our league as we start to build this pathway. You know, what I would love, if you asked me that question maybe in a different way, like you look back on it in 6 months and then you look back on it in a year from now, you know, what will you like to see? I want to see confidence, that we've created a place for players to play where they feel confident that they are developing as a player, where they where player welfare is an utmost priority. I want people to say that, wow, you know, coaching in the W League really helped me grow as a coach and gave me opportunities to expand what I'm trying to do with my career, and really was valuable experience for me. And that fans, right? Fans were like, I loved going to those games. That was awesome. It was a great experience. Can't wait for next summer. Sorry, I do a lot of talking at the conventions. My voice is a little cracky. I can't wait for next summer for the W League games to kick back off again, right? That their experience was one where they were like, something you want to be a part of. And I think that tells us that, you know, their success. So confidence from the players and the coaches that they can count on the experience to be really valuable for them, and continuing to build the awareness around the experience. Like, this is something you want to be a part of.
I cannot wait to personally go to, I don't know what Chicago game I'll go to, maybe both. Maybe I'll check out both, because I know there's two. When I found out there was two, I was ecstatic. I was like, there's two Illinois teams, you're telling me?
Yeah.
Now, I wish they weren't in the city, because I don't like driving in the city. It's a nightmare for me personally, and my family will make fun of me for this. You know, hopefully, like the burbs, hint, something in the burbs I would prefer, but I will try and go to the city to check out both teams. Now, I'm going to do a lightning round. I do this at the end of all my conversation o'clocks. This is what we're on. The first question I always ask is, if you are reading a book or listening to an audiobook right now, or maybe any book in general, what is something that you would like to recommend for the listeners of this show?
Oh boy. Okay. I just finished one. Depending on your listeners, but I think it would fit for a lot of people. But I just finished one called Rethink by Adam Grant. I like his stuff. It's really practical. It makes sense. And it's all about sort of rethinking your assumptions. So I like that kind of stuff. I like kind of that like self-growth, like introspective sort of things. So that would be a good one. I'm also, I haven't finished it yet, but lightning round, true disclosure, I'm like a huge Brandi Carlile fan, and I don't know if people know who Brandi Carlile is or not, but if you don't, look her up. Her music's great, and she released a book, and I've been reading that, and I've been really enjoying that too. So
I know who that is. I can say that I actually know. I think, let's see. A lot of my family listens to this show, and I think they all know. So you got that going.
All right.
I don't know about everyone
good.
else.
The book's good too. Music's good. Book's good too. Music's great, actually.
When you were playing soccer, is there any professional soccer player that you were like mimicking their style of play? No, it's a toughie.
Well, I would say there's two.
Okay.
So when I was a kid, I was growing up in kind of like the late 80s, early 90s. That's when I was kind of at the height of my like being a kid playing soccer, or teenager kind of thing, going to college. And one of my favorite goalkeepers is a guy named Peter Schmeichel. And he played
Oh, I know who that is.
You know who that
Yeah.
is? His son plays now in the professionally. But Peter Schmeichel played for Manchester United, and it was, consuming soccer in the U.S. back then. You weren't really watching it on TV. You were kind of getting it through news publications that actually, got mailed to your door and that kind of stuff. So I just remember I had a chance to go to England with an ODP regional team, and we saw a Manchester United game, and Peter Schmeichel was in the goal, and I was just like sitting there, like enamored about just his aggressiveness and his confidence, and he was fearless, and he would make these saves, and I was just like, this guy's awesome. And then I would say from a player perspective in the US though too, so I was a goalkeeper, and Schmeichel was one of my favorite goalkeepers to watch. But when it came to like access to the national team and things like that, I mean, still the women's national team wasn't as prominent as it is now in the media. And I knew some of those players mostly from playing against them back in that time frame. So I was a definite huge Mia Hamm fan, and but on the men's side too, I loved like players like a Kobe Jones and things like that. Where watching them play on our national teams and seeing them play was always just really fun. So I would say those were a couple that I got to follow back in the day that were inspiring and fun to watch.
I think we have to end the show now because you talk about Man United and we don't like here.
We don't really talk about
We
that.
don't talk about Man United. I'm a Chelsea fan.
Okay.
That's why I'm bringing that up. I'm kidding, obviously, everyone. Come on. Get it together. I do like Chelsea. And I'll just, every time, any Man United fan, Man City, Tottenham, like,
So I have a Man United scarf. I would not call myself a Man United fan still today, but it was like my first Premier League game I ever. I think it was like 14 maybe, and I thought this was the coolest thing ever. And I got a Man United scarf, and I still have it today. And when you're doing all those Zooms, working from home type thing, it was in my background. And I got on so many Zoom calls that people were like, "I'm sorry, but I really need you to take that down or change your background." I was like, listen. There's a story behind it. It's just a thing. Like,
it's just the one thing.
don't hold it against me right now.
So do you root for any Premier League teams currently?
I'm actually, I would say I'm more of like a Bayern Munich fan a little bit than a Premier League fan. I really have got, I would say, more women's soccer following than the men's teams, to be honest. And I would definitely cheer on Chelsea on the women's side. So, and I like Man City's women's team too. So
You can't like both.
I know. I
Gotta
I
pick
know.
one.
And I said that publicly. And now everybody knows. I just love a good game. I'm not a diehard fan with any one team. I have no true allegiance.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if that means you're gonna just delete this podcast.
No, it's okay. I have a Bayern Munich jersey. I left it at home. I was gonna wear it one of these days that I'm here, and I was like, I'll just wear my Chelsea jersey. I got a bunch of other shirts that I brought in. I'm also wearing a It's Coming Rome shirt today because I'm Italian and I like Jorginho and all of them. So for all you English fans out there, nice try. It's not coming home. It's going to Rome, and it did. So take that. All right. Final question.
Yeah.
Is there any album that you're currently listening to right now that would you like to recommend to the listeners?
Album.
Yeah. Or maybe just an artist if you can't pick one.
So my wife makes fun of me because I get on these kicks and then I listen to these things forever, even though they're like not new or they're dropping new albums and you should be paying attention to this stuff. So I was on a big Dua Lipa kick over like the pandemic, and I would play Dua Lipa all the time in the background. That was definitely one that I've enjoyed. And I feel like we just listened to somebody. This is so fun fact about me. Worst question you could ask me. Worst question you could ask me. I could be like, you know that song, or like I'm in the car with you and we're, running errands that day, and when the radio plays the same song over and over again, and I'm like, hey, John, who's this again? And you tell me, and then I'd be like, okay. And then we get in the car, and I'm like, I really like this song. And you're like, yeah, Missy, it's so and so. And I'm like, oh, that's the same song. And then we get in the car like 3 hours later, and you're just like, I can't. And I'm like, is this that song again? And you're like, yeah. And I can never remember who it is and what song. So not my strength. But that's true confessions. I was jamming out to Dua Lipa when I was working from home.
Nice.
True confession.
I haven't listened to the full album. I listened to a few of the songs. For me and my sister, we were listening to The Weeknd's album.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't listened to his new one, but I don't want to. I've seen like, oh, I don't really like it. I'm not gonna listen then. I'm not gonna listen. I don't want it to be ruined.
Well, I'm going to be moving my family from Massachusetts to Florida. That's a big long road trip. So I'll get caught up on some of the music I've missed.
And then you won't remember it.
And then I won't remember it. But I'm going to keep it in my back pocket for my next lightning round.
Okay. That way you're prepared. You got it down. You're all good to go. Everything is great.
I can tell you what my kids are listening to. Spidey and His Amazing Friends, Disney Junior. Very good soundtrack.
I do not know what that is.
And Encanto, the new Disney.
Yeah, I watched that the other day.
So
I have very strong opinions about it, but I'm not going to go into it on
okay,
here.
but there's a few catchy tunes in there that
I do agree with that. Yeah.
that are definitely in my head while I'm like walking around my hotel room at night, and I realize that I'm singing them to myself. So there you go.
I'm on TikTok a lot, so the one that's trending right now is "We Don't Talk About Bruno."
Oh yeah.
So I see that all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that'll be in my head for the rest of the day.
It is now. I'm gonna be walking around going.
Yeah. Just gonna play the soundtrack the whole time I'm here.
Yeah.
If you stop by the booth, so
You can put that weave that in as some of the podcast music on the way out of the show. You can only do so much, right? Before they tell you
like 2 seconds long
Yeah.
and an outro of "We Don't Talk About Bruno."
Yeah. We don't talk about Man United.
No, we definitely don't talk about Man United on this show, unless I'm talking about the FAWSL. I mean, they did have a nice Man United women had a nice win the other day. I believe that yesterday. Yeah.
Are you gonna watch the El Clasico of the women?
I forgot what day it's on.
It's not till March.
It's not till March?
Yeah.
Depending on my school schedule. If
Yeah.
I'm back in school or not, if they decide to let us back onto campus, then. But the fact that they sold out the stadium is pretty damn epic.
Yeah.
Pretty
Cool.
Now is the time to plug away. Say whatever you want,
Plug
social, talk a little bit more about
right.
the women's league, whatever you want to do.
All right.
There you go.
Well, if people do want to follow me on social, my Twitter and Instagram are the same. It's Missy Price, PhD. Pretty easy to find. I encourage everyone to follow USL Super League, USL W League, if you want to get involved in the women's game, be a fan, be a player, be a coach. There's constant sort of media and information going up as we get ready to launch W League here in a couple months and Super League in 23. And I would say, what would I leave you with? I would leave you with people have been asking me all day and all week about, why did I take this job? Why was it important to me? And I would just encourage people to continue to invest in women and empower women. And sometimes we think about doing that for others, especially as women, but we don't always do it for ourselves. And so investing in yourself and empowering yourself to go do what you want to do. Do your own podcasts, to, chase your dreams with a career, to switch careers, take a chance on yourself. It's usually a safe bet.
What a great way to end today's episode. This has been a phenomenal time. I want to thank you again for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Now it's time for my spiel. This is what I say the worst part of the episode because I try to go really fast and get all of my stuff out of the way and it just never ends up really working for me. But I'm gonna try. I'm gonna get focused. I do it like my voice goes up just a little bit. I turn on my podcasting voice. It's really epic. Okay, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna go. If you want to follow me on social media, guess what? You can. I am on 3 different places: Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Facebook and Twitter, it's the same handle. It's at WSM Podcast. And on Instagram, you can follow me at Women's Sports Matter. We got a bunch of great different resources linked down below. Want to find a vaccine? I got you covered. Go to vaccines.gov. There's also a link to register to vote. There is links about the NWSLPA and the Black Player Women's Collective. Some great stuff. Just saying. I will also link all the great stuff that the doc talked about on today's episode. So all of that will be linked down below. There's a YouTube channel. You want to watch this episode? Wow. I have the perfect channel for you to subscribe to. It's the Women's Sports Matter Podcast. Make sure you subscribe. We're 18 subscribers strong. I really appreciate it if you would do that because I want you to. Thank you. Again, resources linked down below. There's going to be a lot more episodes this week because I'm talking to a lot of great people within the soccer community. So, yeah, this has been another episode of the Women's Sports Matter Podcast. I'm your host, Gianna Locastro. I will see you, I don't know what time this week. I don't know how many interviews I'm doing. But thank you again for listening. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of the convention. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.